myself. There you go. All right. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. It looks very sunny there. Are you going to be good for 20, 30 minutes or are you going to get a sunburn?
No, actually, to my liking, it's quite cold compared to Puerto Rico.
That's true. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Alexis. We actually met in Puerto Rico the first time, right? And
Yeah.
that was about a year and a half ago now already, I think. And what I remember is when I first brought up the topic of AI, we were on a way to a hike somewhere, and you were comparing it to Moloch, right? I think that was the mythical creature. Can you tell me what you what you meant by that back then, and how your opinion might have changed slightly?
Well, I think Moloch is not necessarily has to do anything with AI per se. Moloch, it's this non-existing or like a virtual idea that drives humanity um, in a spiral race to the bottom. It's, I think originally that term was used to corporations because, a big corporation, they they're not really, it's not a person, it's not a system, yet it exists. And as the corporations are driven by profits, um, then in the end of the day, the corporations win, but everybody who's associated with that or who's around it lose. And then the spirit of Moloch is something that makes people compete and destruct themselves while competing. And it's kind of out in the public, and a little bit what's happening now with uh or could be happening, I should say, with AI between United States and China, right? Even if something is clearly dangerous, we will still do it because if we don't do it, the other side would.
Hmm.
So you cannot get out of the competition, even though you might clearly see that this competition is destructive for everybody around. So that's the idea of Moloch, right? Corporations and any sort of competition that might be destroying our environment, destroying our souls. Social media, right? The social media, it's
Hmm.
also a clear idea of Moloch. We all know that it's addictive. We know that it's the algorithms actually promote negativity, right? Because that what grabs our attention. And yet we still need social media. We cannot just say, okay, well, it's a bad thing, let's shut it down.
Right.
So danger with AI that the same thing can happen here, but if it happens here, obviously it will happen at a much
Yeah.
larger scale.
Do you think there's generally progress without, can there be progress without competition?
Probably not. And
Difficult, right?
the reason for that is our human nature is very lazy. So if we
Speak
I
for
think what
yourself.
but I think uh what competition promotes, the most important, um, I would say, feature of competition is that that is what drives us to get out of the comfort zone.
Hmm.
And if we are comfortable and we don't have any external force, or if we don't create this force to drive ourselves out of the comfort zone, basically we are going backwards, right? So you need to have a certain amount of discomfort, external problems. I think competition is just one of the drivers, right? I would imagine that if you would have an external enemy like aliens attacking us, right, and we would have to solve that problem together, that would drive the progress as well,
Hmm.
uh, potentially without the competition. But without presence of a common problem like threat of extinction, common enemy. probably the competition is the next best thing that
Yeah.
drives the progress.
There's got to be some sort of motivator, right? So I
Or we
see.
need to create it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, true. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about this whole topic of AI and how you use it, but maybe a little bit about your background. Remind me again, were you born originally in Russia or in Ukraine, or because you were born there and then you immigrated to the Netherlands, if I remember correctly, right? What was
That's
that
correct.
story?
Not immediately after I was born, but I was born actually in Soviet Union, and that back when it was Soviet Union
Right.
in Simferopol, Crimea. Later on, that became a part of Ukraine, and then it was occupied and annexed by Russia. So,
Gotcha.
born
So
in
it
Soviet
depends on
Union,
when you put the timestamp, I guess. I see.
exactly.
Well, I was born in the
Uh,
Soviet Union as well, so to say. So, my brother from another mother. And then you were very active in the early days of the internet in the Netherlands, right?
Well, that's how I got my job because first I was very active in Ukraine when internet sort of started reaching us. I was a part of the first internet site it was called, but actually it's an internet service provider, what we would call now. But that was I was the one of the first people in my region who had a modem, and I would
Mm.
be dialing up to internet, and I would have internet connectivity. And immediately back then, I would say it was 1996, I think. I started, exploring the internet, connecting to different it was golfer sites or like some board sites of universities in the United States. And I had my first gig. I was doing a penetration testing. I was trying to hack the sites, and then I would just kind of what we now would call a white hat hacker. I would
Mm.
tell them, "Hey, I found this exploit, and this I can fix it for you." And that's how I was getting my first work online while still in Ukraine. I think it was very first remote work in the world. And that's
Gotcha.
how I found my first job. I had job offers in the United States, but I couldn't come to the United States legally because I didn't have a university degree back then. I was
Mm.
just, I think, 16, 17. Uh, but I did get an offer in the Netherlands to come and work for the first internet provider in the Netherlands, and I was just 19, and they got me
Mm.
from there from
Gotcha.
Ukraine back then, and that was my first job in Holland. That's how I became Dutch.
Mm. Oh, I see. I see. Got it. And then obviously, I mean, you're a very multifaceted guy, which is why I love you. And you're a commercial airline pilot, for example. You're a kite surfer, which I love as well, right? But you were always kind of like in the software development industry, right? You have a company, a Paxiv, that's focusing on rapid prototyping, if I understand that correctly. And I would love to hear two things throughout this conversation from you. Number one, how has AI impacted you and your work and your company, and how are you using it now? And number two, maybe in opposite order, do you see any parallels between, that early days of the internet when you got into it and now the early days of AI? And if you see parallels, what are those, and how can people make use of that?
A lot of interesting topics to
Go
uh,
wherever you want to go, man.
unpack. Um, I actually see also some differences in what's happening with the what was happening with the internet and what's happening with AI. You see, when we were building internet, it was all driven by science and engineering, and we didn't have the media to actually reach all the end users because that's what internet created,
Mhm.
right? So now what is happening with AI, I think it has started with science and engineering, but very quickly the drive of sort of developing AI now moved to more of non-technical people, entrepreneurs, marketeers, salespeople, right? The end users. So where who are much better at applying these things in business. And I think because of this, it's actually will be growing much quicker and like more exponential. But on the other hand, I also see that we are now very quickly it will be a much quicker bubble, so to say, because a lot
Mm.
of technologies that are now using AI, they are more of a temporary shiny land grab thing. And
Like
if
the
you
rapper companies. Is that what you mean?
like a rapid companies, but it's also a lot of this is fake it till you make it. So a lot
Mm.
of those technologies, it's more about the idea saying like, hey, we can do this. We can build a software in 5 minutes. But if you dig deeper, you see that a lot of those projects are actually not scalable, and it's like they're not built by the right people, because the right
Mm.
people, the scientists and the engineers who knows how to build AI, they are not so connected to the end purpose. And it's very interesting to see how these kind of two things of the scale are balancing each other.
Mm.
Where with internet, before it reached the end users, it was all about solid technology and scientifically built things, and that's maybe it took much longer for internet to reach these end users. Um, Another parallel here is that a lot of the internet exploded when people started using JavaScript, right? Because suddenly you were able to build things inside of your browser using this simple language, and it was very easy to make to reach the end user through the
Hmm.
browser and have the applications that would be in the browser. The flip side of that was the JavaScript actually was never meant to be used as a language. It was meant to be used as a script. So we kind of also created a lot of software that had technical debt, vulnerabilities. So from the perspective of the engineer, JavaScript is not something that you want to build the software in. So I guess where I'm trying to get with this is that a lot of AI is going to be a bubble. I think it will
Mm.
burst much quicker. And what that would mean for us,
Yeah.
that's very hard to tell. I think we will make sort of the pendulum will swing back, where you will say like, okay, well, AI is amazing, it's great for building software, but if you want to build stuff that is actually going to last, we will still need to find a ways how to use it in a
Mm.
responsible manner.
I actually heard of a kind of like a rehiring wave in some industries and companies where they first thought AI can do everything, then they fired certain people, and now they're kind of rehiring them in a hybrid role. But with this rapid change and all these things, and the maybe a burst that you mean in your work, maybe you can give us a one-liner about your focus at Paxif, and how do you know what to implement in your work, how to jump into this wave of AI, and what might just be a flash in a pan, Like how do you when you make that decision, how do you actually adapt and create in your industry with your company?
So, as you started, maybe the first part of the question was um, until spring this year, my company was a rapid software development agency. So basically, you could hire our team. We would call ourselves Special Forces of
Hmm.
Software Development, a very small team that's working very efficiently with each other, using productive frameworks, using the latest technology, and we could build a whole cross-platform application or a platform for you in weeks and not months. That was our slogan. Basically, five people reusing a lot of prefabricated software blocks and our records of building a mobile cross-platform application from start to finish, from the idea through UI to building to testing to publish it to the App Store was just 1 week.
Mm.
And if any software, I mean, a lot of software developers called me a liar, told me that it's not possible, right? So we've been doing these impossible things because if you build some software, you try to publish it to the App Store. Sometimes it takes you a week to get it
Mm.
published to the App Store, right? So we finished the entire project. Um, so that is what we were doing until March. Uh, we were facing some challenges on how to scale it because it took a very long time to build this team of people of the special forces who knew exactly how to do things quickly. It's enough for one software developer to do something incorrectly or slack for a day, and the entire project is ruined, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we were facing challenges with scaling it up, so making multiple teams working in parallel, and with remote work because you need to hire people you never met before, and it's very difficult to explain this attitude and to train this remotely. So while facing one of the challenges of the project, I thought, okay, well, this developer is not pulling the weight. You know what? I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to build it myself. And I remember that the particular piece of code that I had to build was nothing really super exciting or challenging. It just had to be done correctly, like was tedious work. And I thought, well, maybe I will try use AI.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly around that time, Claude came up with their artifacts and more importantly, the project knowledge. And that was always my idea that if you want to build something with AI, you need to be able to share your code with the context, with the AI, and then make some iterations on top of that. And I tried Claude, and it just worked.
Mm.
Because if you would try the same with the chat GPT back then and still now, sometimes very often it will tell you, yes, of course, I'm going to build you a spaceship, right? But then in the end, it looks like something of those funny videos about the aviation in Africa, right? That
Mm.
that it's never going to fly. So, and Claude was actually building the code. I looked at the code and the code just worked. So I was just able to build software with Claude, something that would take me working with an engineer maybe a week, especially because of the remote work, of
Right.
this, time zone differences, whatnot. I could just build it in an hour.
Mm.
And it was a shocker. I was like, well, what does this mean, right? It actually works, and that doesn't mean that the traditional software is going to be finished. Uh, and for a while, I thought that traditional software development is actually finished because if you look at where the models are going, they are able to build the software for you. So, and if the chat GPT is actually able to do it interactively, you ask it to solve a problem in the background, it builds a Python script and then runs this Python script for you to solve your problem, right? So if you extrapolate in the future, all kind of problems and all kind of ideas can be implemented in that way. So for a while there, we decided to scale down the agency and actually do a full-time research of what AI can do for us.
Right.
So through those iterations, I caught myself quite unexpectedly that I was interacting with Claude exactly in the same way that I used to interact with my software developers. It was, and actually, I would just ask, okay, well, build this module, and it would come up with this module, and I would say, well, actually, you can do it much simpler. How about doing it like that and like that? And the cloud would come back to me, that's an excellent idea. And
Mm.
it would do the thing that I needed to do. The same thing that I would sometimes have with my software developers, but only, it would take 3 or 4 times because we agree on one thing, they do another because they thought it,
Right.
it could be better to do it in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Or they forgot something. So then we actually went through to a stage where we started using Claude as a junior or a mid software engineer, right? And it's all about giving the right context to the model and having the right prompt, right? And then safeguarding the options that it gives you, because it will give you like five options. One of them would be perfect, four of them would be crap. And if
Hmm.
you if you go with one of the four, you're actually taking a fork in the road that is just going to end up with complete waste of time. So you need to be understanding what Claude is offering you.
Right. I have a
And
question on that actually, because
Mhm.
I often talk about, not in a software development perspective, but I'm sure it's similar. A lot of people will get a promotion that they didn't ask for. What I mean by that is the tasks that they used to be paid for to do will be automated by AI, but then they have to step up one rung on the ladder to become decision makers and really decide which tasks to execute, which option to pick, which way to choose, right? My question to you is in the software development world, how do developers, what type of skills do they have to learn in order to actually flourish in this type of environment? Because essentially, otherwise, it's almost like, the AI will get to the point, at least from my perspective, that they'll be completely irrelevant when they don't have some sort of like a growth mindset and they don't learn new things. So, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so you need to know multiple areas. You need where you could actually make a living, and it was promoted for somebody to be a master of a single trade, right?
Specialization, yeah.
Specialization, right? Uh, Now AI is going to be the master of all those trades, but you need to be able to connect the dots.
Mm,
And it's quite funny. Myself, I always felt bad about my inability to let go of the details. I always needed to, I tend to micromanage people. I tend to want to do everything by myself and understand how everything works, be that software development, be this
mm,
running my business, doing taxes, accounting, fixing the house, right? And that was getting very much in a way of me scaling a company and working with people, trusting people, accepting these imperfections, right?
mm.
But with the I just the tables have turned, right? I'm
But why
exactly.
is that though? I'm curious because I mean, you say it yourself. It's not perfect, right? But there's something about those new workflows that makes you trust it more than before, right? So do you know what that is?
Not necessarily that I have to trust it because I understand. I like to put my nose in every
Hmm.
uh, subject domain, right? And because I understand that, I'm able to drive AI to do the tasks that I need to perfection.
Hmm.
And because normally the way it would work, an engineer would build something and I would tell like, no man, this you need to redo this. And sometimes we would do it like three or four times, and that would be ridiculously inefficient. But
Hmm.
if you go back to rapid software development, one of the tenets of rapid software development is a lack of technical depth, and that comes from a good quality of code. So if you don't have that, you're not able to rapidly develop for long. You can rapidly develop for a day, but then everything just crashes. So
Yeah.
it would be a lot of frustration going back between me and the engineers, asking for improvements, asking to redo things even if things worked. And I can do the same with AI, but it just takes much quicker. So I don't have to compromise. I can actually, because the round trips are so quick, I can get the perfect code every single time. And the moment where we need to refactor the code, right? So like, and we always need to refactor the code because uh, the moment the code is built, you learn something new, and from that position, you would already do it in a different way, right? Because you,
Hmm.
you keep on learning. You never know what you will learn. It. So refactoring is very important. But if the code is built with AI, refactoring becomes also extremely easy. And you are
Can you
not
explain what refactoring means to the non-technical person like me?
so
Simple
refactoring
terms.
is when you build uh, a system or a piece of software and you keep on adding some new elements, at
Mm.
some point you realize that you need to rebuild the parts that you already have built to for it to be more efficient or to align better with the new
Oh,
environment
got
or
it. So
with
basically
the new.
integrate everything together in one
Yes, and
file.
maybe as you build the code, you learn new things, and then you see like, okay, well, maybe I need to use a different database for this
Mm.
task, something that I didn't
Got it.
see before. And pretty much every time you write the code, and by the time you finish writing the code, you already there's something to refactor because you learn some new lesson and you can
Yeah.
do it better. You
Got it.
know,
So basically putting it all under an umbrella once the pieces are. Is that something that AI does for you as well?
well, absolutely,
Mm.
because when that code is all in the context, right? You can actually AI has built it. AI can also rebuild it, and that
Mm.
becomes much easier.
So what are some of the example projects that you right now with those new capabilities, your superpowers now through AI, what are some of the most fun projects, I don't know, maybe types or sizes that you feel like, this is something that is the perfect project for the technology that's there right now in your field? Is there something like that that you can identify?
Well, yes, I think in the end we want technology to connect to business, and um, I think always has been and will be um, one of the most needed parts of technology is business automation. That was not very clear English, but what I mean. So automating company processes and automating business processes, right? It's something that we all want, and the business process can be marketing and sales, manufacturing, accounting, HR, and
Hmm.
whatnot. And actually, you can have AI run a company for you, and I think this is what everybody is now talking about. That hey, wouldn't it be so great if AI could make those decisions, having taken into account all the information that's available in for the company. So, um, in order to achieve that with AI, you need a couple of things. First of all, you need to have a framework for AI to work with. You need to have this, if you want, in simple terms, a database with all the company data, right? And all
Hmm.
the interfaces of the company. Uh, so you need to have the company data, and you need to this framework is also important for AI to be able to build functionalities on top of that because AI always needs need context. There is a really great it's a blueprint that we have created for business automation using the AI. It's on our website in a blog, and this blueprint uses an open source framework called Odoo, and Odoo is basically a database with their functionality, how to build user interfaces on top of that database, and the great thing about it that it has a great ecosystem of already created modules that you would need to use for your company automation, such as managing your employees, your
Hmm.
CRM, your website builder, etc. So traditionally, and it's called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. This is like a younger brother or sister of SAP, right there. SAP is kind of for always reserved for bigger corporations, and ERP very reserved or like it's a SAP in the cloud for medium and small businesses. So traditionally, this was always a very low tech kind of business because
Hmm.
it's just database, it's just the forms, and you would need to spend a lot of man hours trying to understand the business and just create those custom forms. It's not a lot of programming, right? It's
Mm.
like you need to write these user interfaces in XML, create the data models. So it was never exciting for me and for my company, and it was always very time consuming because you would actually, it was all non-technical work. You need to understand the business, the
Right.
processes, and then like a very little bit of programming. Now with AI has changed everything because what this platform gives you, it gives you a context and a standard way how to deal with all your company data and the processes that you can just connect to AI to build those modules almost instantly because you have the framework. So if you need to create an special, onboard form connected to your warehouse, connected to your price list in multiple languages, uh, maybe connected to some external database, you can implement it as a module on top of this framework in an hour,
Mm.
right? Because you have all the pieces for this module in there, and that actually is this level of productivity is very exciting because you solve problems end to end,
Hmm.
real business problems almost instantly.
Right.
So the exciting part about it that a few months ago I managed to build a set of modules for this framework for managing aviation operations, right?
Hmm.
So because I used to be a pilot, you actually can manage the data about the flights, the aircraft movement, the aircraft weight and balance, and all that. And it just a lot of data organized, interconnected data, a lot of user interfaces, forms, etc. Something I was trying to complete this project before using two software developers
Mm.
over a period of 3 months, and I failed because the the communication with the
Right.
software developers was extremely difficult. I'm telling somebody, okay, well, we need to create this type of a database for storing the data about the aircraft, and because the developers don't know anything about the airplanes, they would come up with something slightly different, right?
Yeah. I
And
mean, I see the problems with remote work in traditional teams. I can only imagine in something very specific like software development, that must be really hard. Yeah.
and aviation. So now suddenly I had my aviation knowledge and I didn't have to deal with the developers and
Yeah.
all these communication problems. And I was able to finish this project that I couldn't complete with three people in 3 months. I was able to finish it within a week. And
Wow.
that is,
By yourself.
which is, and also at the level that I'm entirely happy with
Mm.
because I had a full control over the code quality, over the data model, based on my full understanding and years of experience in the aviation industry.
Mm.
And so the components that were necessary for
Oh no. I hope we didn't lose you. Hello? I guess Sarasota, Florida has a internet problem. Hello.
AI.
Oh yeah, there you go. Welcome
I've
back.
reconnected through my mobile.
Oh, okay, gotcha, gotcha. So I was curious, I would love to know if you have some sort of like a prognosis for next year and what do you think on a business implementation side of things? How can businesses think about this topic in terms of what can we automate? How can we make our business more efficient with the things that Alexis and other companies like his are offering, is there something that you tell people when they come to you? Because I'm sure everybody's like they're trying to write the AI hype, but oftentimes what I find is they're looking for the tools first and then the problem later. But what's your experience there? How should people and businesses think about that?
So there are, I think, a couple of levels of how you can use AI in your business. I think the first level is just individual employees or individual team members using AI tools for their workflows that they're already doing, right? So you just, if
Mm,
you're writing a proposal, you could throw it into ChatGPT. If you are creating some marketing content, you can use some AI, right? This is kind of the first level. Um, the second level is when you want to integrate AI programmatically into your processes and software. And just to give you an example, if you have a chatbot that has access to your company documentation, the price list, whatnot, and you can make it customer-facing chatbot to answer questions based on your specific knowledge base. Or if you want to create some proposals automatically where you get the input maybe from user email or a website. You combine it with some custom prompts and programmatically you involve the LLM and you have the proposals. And then the next level, I think, is when you get AI to give you strategic advices, right? Where you just make sure that you connect all your data points, internal and external, um, to either custom trained, but to some sort of intelligence, and
hmm
then that intelligence is basically able to either automatically drive your company and make decisions, or actually be your executive co-pilot that would
mm
be telling you what's understanding what's happening around, inside and outside of the company, and give you strategic advice. I know that it's now being very, what shall I say, popular or a hot topic between the hedge funds. So imagine if you're investing in some new medicine or a new technology, right? And then depending, and maybe, or it's a publicly traded stock. So when something happens with one of the data points, a clinical study succeeded or failed, right? Or
mm
some there's a problem in a factory somewhere, right? You wanted to get all those inputs and understanding how they affect your business and have the alerts that tell you what you need to do.
mm.
So there are these three levels, I think, right, or three areas.
Right. And
And,
for next year, where do you think is do you see a trend? Which one of those will grow the most, I guess? Because oftentimes we find ourselves in a bubble and we think everybody already knows everything that we know to a degree, and then we step out and we're like, wait, you don't even know what ChatGPT is. So I hear a lot of people talk about agents in 2025. What's your opinion? Is there like a trend that you think is going to be more prevalent than the others?
well, it's really funny when people use the word agent. What is that they mean? And a lot of those agents that are now presented as like, wow, this is amazing agent AI on the internet. It's actually where you see on those podcasts, I have built an agent, done this and that. Usually it's a very low level technology
hmm
connected to the intelligence. What really matters is the intelligence itself. Like, for example, Claude understands how to build software, but ChatGPT doesn't. ChatGPT is able to connect the dots and write good text, right? So different. This is that intelligence is the most important. A
hmm
lot of those agents that are now being marketed, I would say, they are in reality just a thin wrapper, which is a very simple algorithm, right? So I'm going to give you an example of a chat of a support chatbot agent, where it will be just a workflow where the agent takes a prompt from the user. It
Right.
will give this prompt to a model and ask it to turn it into a query. It will take this query, run a similarity search against the database of all your company data, find the relevant pieces of this data, combine it together, and give it to a model with the custom instructions saying like, hey, this is relevant data for this question. This was the question of the user. Please give me an answer uh, considering the data above, what the user asked, and if you don't know, make something up. Or otherwise, if you don't know, clearly say that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Give it to the model as well, send it back, and you have an answer. This is your chatbot. It's an agent, but in reality, it's just a very simple algorithm. So this
Right.
is
It's
like
a chain
from
of
the
prompts, essentially, right?
yes,
Well, what
or
do you think about things like Claude computer use? Have you played around with that?
I
Do you know about it?
to my shame, I have not. I'm also
Okay.
a little bit, or actually a lot concerned about giving access
Yeah.
to my
Yeah.
computer to Claude. But I think when this type of uh, agentic flows will move into the model itself, just I suppose the problem is Claude computer use is that we actually don't know what it does in the background, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, and you know, all those frontier models, they 100% they're doing some cost optimization, right? So
Mm.
sometimes they're lazy, sometimes they're less lazy, depending on the usage or not, A/B testing and whatnot. But I think for agents, right? Uh, what will be very interesting is when the models are going to be becoming more and more capable of reasoning and
Mm.
recursive thinking.
Mm.
That's so when instead of this algorithm, because right now it's like fake it till you make it. It looks like the model is doing this, but actually an algorithm just combining your input with different prompts and following the steps. But when the model is going to be able to figure out internally um, how to run this logical chain, right? The reasoning chain will have external data points and sources directly
Mm.
available to it and would be able to do all of that inside of its network, right? And then kind of what we were talking, there was a trend for a while, large action models,
Hmm.
when you don't get text to text, but you have text to action.
Right.
And in simple term, text to action, it's a text to a program, and the program runs and does something with the external world. I think when that will happen, we might see some breakthrough, right? Like a quantitative, sorry, the qualitative change rather than the
Mm.
quantitative. And that's very interesting to see what that will be. I suppose it would have to be one of the frontier models, or maybe one of the bigger open source models like Meta Llama,
Hmm.
because it's not just an algorithm, right? It's the intelligence that knows
Right.
how
Even
to
though
use.
I did see a report somewhere, I gotta pull it up somewhere, where a much smaller model, I don't know which one it was Quen or another one, but it has way less parameters, but they gave it much more time to think. And at a point, it actually outperformed a much bigger model. So I'm curious how these things are going to develop for sure. So yeah, I guess there's a lot that we don't know, but it's an exciting space. Um, yeah, I mean, thank you for your thoughts on all this. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, always through my company website, apexiv.com, or it's also alexis@apexiv.com. You can always send me an email
Hmm. I'll
or
put
reach
those in the
out
link
on
below.
LinkedIn. That works too.
LinkedIn as well. All right, sounds good. Are you automating some of your social media personal branding content yet, or is that still all you?
Yeah, I'm doing this old way. I have a couple of people, live
Yeah.
humans that are
Sometimes,
taking care
I'm
of it.
I mean, that's good. I like this juxtaposition. Even today, let me just show you what I'm bidding on right now. Believe it or not, on eBay. I mean, not right now, but I just got the notification to get a
Uh-huh.
bid on on a typewriter. Partially also because I have kids and I want them to explore these things before they go away. But there is something to it, connecting the old with the new. And I think in certain parts of life, it's nice to preserve that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess we are out of time, but the next time we can talk more about more philosophical aspects of AI,
Yeah, I gotta
the
get a cigar and a whiskey for that. I would love that. We should have a philosophy hour about AI. I like the idea actually. We should do that. Maybe a couple guys
absolutely.
and girls, put them together in a Zoom call. That would be fun. Anyway, Alexis, thank you so much. That was a pleasure. Always happy to talk to you. It's always exciting to hear from your perspective because you're actually doing the things out there that a lot of people are just talking about. And like I said, I'll put all the links below so people can reach out to you. And yeah, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day in sunny Florida. Don't get too much
Thank you.
sun.
Thank you, Camille. Have a
All
great
right.
one.
Take care.